It's 7:30 p.m. and I'm going to call this meeting to order. This meeting of the Denville Township Board of Education is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Notice of this meeting was provided to the Daily Record and or the Star Ledger of Morris County, has been delivered to the Township Clerk, and has been posted on the bulletin board of the Board of Education office and in each of the school buildings in the district. Roll call, please.
Mr. Capello?
Here.
Mrs. Wagner? Remote.
She is not in the meeting, no.
Mr. Cass?
Here.
Mr. Kim?
Here.
Dr. Arunajitasan?
Here.
Dr. Moore?
Here.
Mr. Anderson?
Here. We do not have a need for executive session, so we'll move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. Okay, we do not have any special presentations tonight, but we do have a few up and coming here. On June 13th, we're going to have the presentation of our 2022 Denville Public Schools / Denville Education Foundation Persons of the Year awards, I should say, excuse me. We're also on that same evening, June 13th, going to have Susan Marinello, our communications consultant. She's going to give us a recap of 2021, 2022, and suggestions for 2022, 2023. And that same evening, we got a triple header. We're going to have the Valley View Athletics County Champions. On June 27th, we'll have Dr. Forte and Dr. Cullis with Charlene Peterson from New Jersey School Board Association for our goal setting for 2022-2023. So moving on to superintendent's comments, Dr. Forte.
So we kept it generic and said athletics because our spring sports are in the middle of the softball tournament, which starts right now. The baseball team is 8-1, softball is 6-4. The tournament starts this week. Baseball is the number 2 seed, and we'll host Bernardsville tomorrow at 4 p.m. And softball also has a home game as the number 3 seed, and they'll play Madison on Wednesday at 4 p.m. I attended the Valley View musical on Saturday. I was really impressed with the way the students and the staff worked it out, and we had a great crowd. The play was as usual excellent, and it was 95 degrees out, but it was nice and cool inside with the air conditioning. We had a couple meetings about the Valley View half day issue that we had during the conferences. And we made a couple adjustments. I talked to you guys about it a little bit. So we're still going to work on allowing students to walk out of school on half days. But we are going to tighten up our policy a little bit. We'll have some recommendations for policy changes definitely prior to the start of the school year. And we will also make a few changes on how we dismiss the students and work with the police on just maybe improving the orderliness of the way they walk downtown, and really in the name of safety. So those are the types of things that we're working on. Our community resources fair with CPAC will be at Riverview on June 8th from 4:30 to 6 p.m. If anybody is available to check that out. That's something that Ms. Johnson put together. And our end of the year. So right now, this is the plan. Obviously, as long as there's no reason to close school for any other reason, but for at this point to give back the snow days, June 20th and 21st will be an early dismissal for all schools. June 21st will be the last day of school for Riverview and Valley View. And June 22nd will also be a half day, and that would be the last day of school for Lakeview. We do have a little bit of a spike in some COVID cases recently. Right now, currently, we have 46 positive cases, 54 students in quarantine. I'm sorry, not just students, people. So there's 46 positive individuals, 54 people in quarantine, and then 25 new cases since the last time we reported on Friday. And that's it for my superintendent's comments.
Thank you, Dr. Forte. And Dr. Cullis is not here with us. She's not virtual, is she?
No, she's not.
Okay, perfect. Mrs. Gorowski, Business Administrator's comments.
The Denville Board of Ed will have 2 vacancies for the November 8th, 2022 board school election. The deadline to submit your application is July 25th at 4 p.m. Any interested candidate must file an application with the Morris County Clerk. And there's information on the school website as well as the New Jersey School Board Association website. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Growski. We're going to move to our first open public comment section. This portion of the meeting is open to any individuals for the purpose of addressing resolutions on this agenda or matters that they find important to the Board of Education and is governed by Board Policy 0167. Prior to making a comment, members of the public are required to state their names, addresses, and the subject matter of the comment. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. No participant may speak more than once on the same subject until all others who wish to speak on that subject have been heard. Comments made by members of the public may or may not be responded to by the board or district administration. Any response that is provided will be made at the end of the public comment section, period, and after all comments have been heard. The board asks that members of the public be courteous and mindful of the rights of other individuals when speaking. Students and employees have specific legal rights afforded by the laws of New Jersey. Therefore, comments regarding specific students and employees will not be responded to by the board. The board bears no responsibility, nor will it be liable for any comments made by members of the public. Members of the public should consider their comments in light of these legal rights and of those affected or identified in their comments and be aware that they are legally responsible and liable for their comments. All statements, questions, and inquiries shall be made to the board president. And I'm going to open our first public comment section at 7:36 p.m. Yes, absolutely. You can come on up, and there's a microphone right here. If you could just put your name and address on that sheet, either at the beginning or end of your comments, and state your name and address for the record, and you can make your comment. Thank you for joining us. You just have to hold down the button on that microphone while you're speaking. You could sit or stand either way.
My name is Susan Richter. I live at 166 Franklin Road in Denville. I've been a resident here and a property owner since 2004. I have served on the zoning board. And I'm here because I have a copy of the State of New Jersey Comprehensive Health and Physical Education thing that's all about the curriculum next year. And I also have a copy of the additions, deletions, and revisions.
Yeah, we record it, so you'll have to hold down the microphone. You can pull that. Yeah, sorry about that. There you go. Now it's live.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so according to this, by the end of grade 5, which I believe is, what, a 10-year-old? I'm just asking if you're like supporting this, behind it, you know, how you feel about it, because I'm a little shocked. A 10-year-old should be able to talk about human sexual development, romantic and sexual feelings, masturbation, mood swings, and timing of pubertal onset. Okay. A 13-year-old should be able to describe pregnancy testing, signs of pregnancy, pregnancy options, including parenting, abortion, and adoption. That's a 13-year-old. Oh, yes, and define vaginal, oral, and anal sex. 13-year-old, which I don't think is a great thing for a 13-year-old to learn in school. So I just wanted to know how the members of the Denville Board of Education feel about this. This is New Jersey Department of Education. Have you talked about it, reviewed it at all? And then S2481 says that the Board of Education will allow parents 1 visit per year in 2022-23 school year, which means, me, I'm too old to have a kid in this school system. But I have friends who have kids in this school system who, can't believe that I printed all this out and found it in there. But I did, so that's why I'm here.
Thank you, Mrs. Richter, for your comments. We appreciate it. So as you can see, there's a huge document in front of you that our administration has read, and I'll certainly kind of give my comments and then open it up if Dr. Forte has some additional comments to make. Dr. Cullis, who unfortunately isn't here tonight, is she's our assistant superintendent, and she handles the instruction program and the curriculum. So she typically handles most of this, but I can certainly respond to it, and Dr. Forte may be able to provide some more additional context. So I believe what you're reading, not seeing it in front of me, is the supplemental or appendix of that document. Is that correct?
No, this is the entire document.
No, the area that you were reading from specifically, that was out of the...
Yes, that's a summary of additions, deletions, and revisions to this document.
Yeah. So what you're reading are potential ideas that you could use. I would say we currently have a health curriculum on our website that you can certainly go to and read. It includes none of what you mentioned.
Okay.
The curriculum will be reviewed and potentially updated over the summer for revisions that will be implemented next year.
Is that open to the public, that meeting?
Yes, absolutely. Well, we discussed the curriculum is discussed with the staff members and the administration, and then brought to the instruction and program committee. And when voted on by the board to be approved, it is brought to a public meeting. So it will be approved and brought to a public meeting at some point over the summer, probably. Dr. Forte, do you know generally?
Last time this came up in a board meeting, Dr. Cullis did say that we would have a discussion about it.
And she would
and,
present, right?
and then vote on it.
Yep.
So there'll be a discussion time and a vote on any changes to the curriculum.
So there will be kind of a presentation from the administration to discuss what the curriculum is going to look like, which is, we don't always do that, but obviously a very, sensitive subject, I think, that has been brought up several times. I can tell you in general that the feeling, and I don't want to speak for each individual on the board, but I would say generally there is not significant plans or changes to our existing curriculum. We feel pretty confident in it. There are certain requirements to meet, but those are not required by that law. Those specific items that you're reading are not required by the Department of Education. The requirements are very basic, and then allow the district to use what you want as reference material and be a little bit more specific. I would say in general, there's not a significant plan to make any huge changes to our curriculum, but we will obviously meet the requirements. And I would say until Dr. Cullis presents, I couldn't necessarily speak directly on exactly what that'll look like, but it'll be a public meeting where it'll be advertised and it'll be out there to discuss and have people come to the meeting, and virtually too, if you'd like to attend. So certainly it's something that I think has been discussed on the board and discussed in the public. And, I think that we will be looking at it and addressing it in the most appropriate way we feel for our community.
Okay. And when is your agenda posted for your meetings?
Go ahead, Dr.
We
Forte.
post Fridays typically for the Monday meeting on the district website. If you go to denville.org and you click on Board of Education, you'll see a link for agendas. As a matter of fact, why don't did you put your phone number and everything there?
No, I didn't sign it yet.
Oh, if you sign in and put your phone number there, I will reach out to you tomorrow and I'll help you out, walk you through all this stuff.
Okay.
Is that good?
Yeah, that's good.
And I did look into that document you talked to me about outside. I sent it to the business administrator who handles the advertising.
Oh,
We do
7
have,
o'clock thing?
what happens is legally, we have to post what time we're meeting, and we don't always have that 7A meeting, but we have to give 48 hours notice, and we sometimes don't know within 48 hours if we have to have the 7 o'clock session. Does that make sense? Like it's usually for an emergency. So I sent it to Mrs. Gorowski to take a look at, but I appreciate you bringing that up to us.
Okay.
And then, Mr. Richter, I'm sorry, can you just repeat the Senate S bill that you mentioned? I didn't catch the number off that second part of your comment.
S2481.
Okay.
where it
We will,
says
let's take a look into that. And if you, on that,
parents, this bill requires boards of education and boards of trustees of charter schools and Renaissance school projects to offer an annual opportunity.
yeah,
That sounds like I can't come in here next year except once.
Not to a board meeting, though. This is a public board meeting. I think they're talking about during the school day, right? Is that during the school day? Is that what that means?
For parents and guardians of students enrolled in the school district, charter school, or Renaissance school project, or for any other residents to provide comments on any curriculum necessary to implement the New Jersey student learning standards and comprehensive health and physical education proposed for the succeeding school year.
yeah, I think and you know, excuse me, because we're just reading it right now to make sure, but I believe that means a minimum. And I think it's specifically about curriculum feedback, and we meet that requirement already. And let me put it this way. There is no plan for us we as a community feel like it is an education community, parents, community, students, staff, and we want the community in our buildings as much as possible, obviously in a safe manner, appropriately, but we invite the parents and community in as often as possible. Even through COVID, we've done the best we can to accommodate having public in our buildings as often as possible. So if that's your concern, I would say that's not something the board
'Cause
plans
you'll
on
be
changing.
seeing me till
I'm sorry?
because you'll be seeing me till I know for sure that none of that's happening here. in
We
our
do not have
wonderful
any
town
plan,
of
I would say, and
Denville.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and speak for Dr. Forte, that there is no plan to restrict access to our buildings beyond what we normally do to keep everybody safe and everything
there are-
else.
I've heard that there are schools that actually have a changing room available for students to go and, change into male or female clothing. I hope you're not doing that either.
All right. So let me put it into what I think is an easy way to understand it. We want to create an environment where everybody is welcome and accepted. Everybody. So things like what you just mentioned about the changing room, we don't currently have that. We don't have a need for a changing room for somebody to change between different outfits, if that's what you mean. But we,
Specifically from, boys' clothing to girls' clothing or vice versa.
yeah, we don't have anything like that. But again, like we said, we want to make sure everybody in the entire community is welcome and accepted in the community, no matter what. So it's not about some of the specific things you talked about before. It's more about, look, let's face it, the world's changing. Like, when I went to school, we probably wouldn't talk too much about somebody has two moms, but that's reality now. So we have to be accepting and welcoming of all people. So that's basically the driving force. All those specific things you talked about before from the state, we really don't have any plan to implement the things that you're talking about. But we do have a plan 100%, and we already do it. Make sure that everybody feels welcome and accepted in the district.
Okay. I mean, these rooms are used without parental knowledge. That's, the kids just feel more comfortable in male clothing, even though there are girls. They use the men's bathroom, even though they're girls, that kind of thing. And I know it's changing, but there's only so many other places I can move to. And I'm beyond the age, obviously. I have a 42-year-old son, but I do have friends with children in the school system that don't have the nerve to show up to a meeting like this, but I do. So I guess that's it. Anybody up there have anything?
Thank you, Mrs. Richter, for
to
your
add?
comment. I appreciate it. And we typically we don't open up for board comments, but if any other members of the board do have a comment, let's do it this way. Just because I want to make sure we're meeting our policy, let's make sure there's nobody else that wants to make any other comments. And if there are, we'll certainly hear them, and then we can kind of open up and see if anybody else has any other comments. But thank you very much for your comments. I appreciate it.
Sure. Do you have anything to say?
Absolutely, yeah. Come on up and just state your name and address for the record, and just make sure, Mrs. Richter, just make sure you sign in there.
I did.
Awesome. Thank you very
I
much.
remember.
Excellent.
Okay, hi, my name is Tracy Flanagan. I live at 6 Myersville Road, Green Village. I don't live in this district, obviously. I just have, just a paying taxpayer and just interested in, all of our children because we love all of our children. And yes, they are accepted no matter what. And that's not what this is about. I mean, I think that, without going into a lot of preface or anything, that kind of happens sometimes when we talk about this stuff and we ask questions. It just becomes, oh, you're not tolerant or something like that. And that's not where my heart is. My heart's just that kids are just get to be kids, And of course, we all accept one another and love one another no matter what. That's what we're called to do. That's what God called us to do. That's the first commandment, and that's the most important one. So I guess I follow up by saying, I agreed with everything Susan was asking. We kind of came together on this, but it would be good to know, like, if possible, what your feelings are on it, just because I know you probably, if you're sitting on the board, you probably have kids this age, and just thinking wouldn't be a bad thing to, if you're open enough to do it. I think it's up to you, but just see what your thoughts are on it. And I know, I had kids once, and when they were young, now they're older. But I just couldn't imagine wanting them to be, be taught some of the things that Susan mentioned. Those kind of things are just kind of pornographic, honestly. And I had some experience with that with one of my kids where she was exposed to something like that, and it was, not a good deal. I don't want to go into detail about that, but that's all I'll say for now. So yeah, that would be great if you could. If not, that's your prerogative. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it. Dr. Forte, do you have any emails in the inbox? I did not see any for comments.
No emails.
Okay. I am going to allow the board, if anybody would like to make any comments, to go ahead and make their comments. I think Mr. Cabello?
Yeah, so I just had one. Susan, you made a comment about parents that didn't have the nerve to come or didn't want to come. Please, I encourage everyone who's listening to this to please come out. I mean, I don't think we're hopefully a threatening group. I don't think we're a frightening group. You've been up here, exactly. So and having an empty room to talk to is not always the best thing. We really do. We value community input. We need community input. So please encourage anyone to please come out and express their opinions. If I don't agree with them, if we don't agree with them, that's fine. But we really do want to have these discussions.
Anyone else from the board have any comments? Don? Go ahead, sir.
Yes. At the last meeting, we've had, and even before that, we've had extensive discussions with Dr. Cullis, who's in charge of the curriculum, especially over my concern for what's out there in the media, which is probably playing up the worst case scenarios. But we have a lot of a latitude and flexibility on what we do with our curriculum. That's just a framework that they give us. One thing I did mention was some of the links and websites that were part of the suggestions to be used from the state. I indicated that they really need to be vetted very carefully, and some of them are just, I would not support some of the ones that you mentioned before. So we're taking it very seriously. Already have spent a lot of time on it, and we'll continue to do so to make sure that we're not promoting a woke agenda. Make sure kids get an education and material that's appropriate for their age.
Thank you. I see a lot of bobbing heads, so.
Anyone else from the board have any other comments? And I mean, the last thing I would kind of add, and I'll let Dr. Forte, if he has any additional comments at the end here, state is that, like Mr. Cash just mentioned, I think the biggest thing that we focus on is age appropriate. And there's standards, and the standards are vague, fairly vague. What you're describing are details and examples that you could discuss and not required. So without letting Dr. Cullis do her job of reviewing that document, she's certainly the professional on it, and Dr. Forte and his team to review it and give us a presentation. We've expressed our concerns and asked for additional information and a little bit deeper review on this than we even normally would. We review all the curriculum. It's approved by the board. There's a public comment section for people to come on in and talk about it. I mean, in general, just to be honest with you, math and science, like there's not a lot of comments that come from it. Obviously, we know this is one that is on everybody's radar and is on the radar of the board also to make sure that we have this correct. So it's something that'll be given even additional kind of analysis and kind of presentation to the public. So Dr. Forte, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I think you hit it. What I was just going to say is that, in all fairness, Dr. Cull's not here to answer some of the questions. She's really leading the charge. And like Mr. Anderson just reminded, that these are guidelines, not necessarily what we're going to do. And we're given leeway on how we feel it's important for our community. So we know that not all communities are the same. And we will put together something. It will be discussed in public, and it will be approved by these 7 people up here. There's
Awesome.
one online.
Okay, I'll sleep better now.
Thank you, Mrs. Richter. Appreciate it. Dr. Forte, just to double check, I don't see any additional emails that come in since.
No emails.
Okay, excellent. I don't see anybody else in the public coming up to the podium. So I'm going to close our open public comment section, our first open public comment section at 7:56 p.m. We're going to move on to our agenda. Mr. Capella, would you mind running us through old business, please?
Certainly, I'd be happy to. If there are no objections under old business, I'd like to move items A, B, and C. These are Treasurer of School Money and Board Secretary reports from April 2022, education reports, report of student enrollment, report of the health office, and 2 HIB cases. And finally, we will be approving the minutes from our work session, executive session meeting of April 11th, 2022, and our regular session, executive session meeting of April 25th, 2022.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Capella. Thank you, Mr. Kim. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Capello,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Kim,
Yes.
Dr. Aruna Jatasan,
Yes.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes. All right, let's move on to new business personnel. Remind me who else is on that committee with Mrs. Wagner? You can do it? Okay, Mr. Capello, would you mind moving us through?
I would be happy to. If there are no objections under personnel, I would like to move items 1 through 8, calling your attention to the yellow addendum sheet for items 1. We're adding AA and BB.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Mr. Capello, any questions, comments? I would just note on under 1W, we have a reading specialist moving across the guide. So congratulations to Miss Pridham. Any other questions, comments? Yes, he added the addendum, correct, yes. Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Capello,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Kim,
Yes.
Dr. Aruna Jatasan,
Yes.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes, and Mr. Capello, you're doing such a good job. Keep going with the instruction and program, please.
Thanks. I appreciate that. If there are no objections under instruction and program, I would like to move item 1, please. These are workshop expenses detailed out below.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Capello and Mr. Cass. I would note for the public that items 1A and B, if you notice, are Morris Catholic High School. Those are what's called Title II funds, and therefore are not actually our money. So it's not that we are paying for staff at Morris Catholic, but it is money that's given to Morris Catholic from the state. And since we are the closest local district, we just kind of funnel the money through and then approve it on our agendas. But it's not really our money necessarily.
Can I ask a question? Steve, could you tell us about Randy Dietrich, the presenter for the convocation?
Yes, we are planning a typical convocation for this year. So that's for our entire staff. He is going to be focusing on a couple goals. I mean, things that we're trying to work on, really to bring us back to basics. What do we do here? We're all about kids, and that's going to be the message. We have to get back to that and remember, all these other things, these distractors are we got to get back to, not that we're not doing it, but to kick off the year, that's going to be the message. And we feel pretty good about his. He's got a real powerful, lot of energy kind of personality.
So this is the guy from Blue Ridge Winery. So he's bringing wine for everybody. All right.
No wine, but yeah, he has
Exactly.
an interesting story. If
Yeah.
you look up his story.
Yeah, no, I know that's
Yeah.
the end of the story more, but yeah.
If we need to go out to the winery, I volunteer to.
Non-site.
That's where the convocation is. Sorry.
A board retreat.
That's a joke for the public. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Capello,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Kim,
Yes.
Dr. Aruna Jatasan,
Yes.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes. Mr. Moore, Dr. Moore, excuse me, would you mind moving us through policy revisions?
Okay, if there are no objections, I'd like to move item 1 under policy revisions, P4233, political activities, and P5512, HIB.
I'll second.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. Thank you, Mr. Cass. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Capello,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Kim,
Yes.
Dr. Aruna Jatasan,
Yes.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes. Mr. Kim, would you mind moving us through finance, please?
Sure, I'd be happy to. If there are no objections, I motion that we approve tonight Section D, Finance, which includes the list of checks under number 1 for the month, as well as approving a bunch of or awarding a bunch of contracts, and calling attention to number 5, the acceptance of the donation of $1,200 from the Einhorn Barbarito law firm for the Valley View Middle School Law Adventure Team, presented by Mr. Ford, as well as number 8, the approval of the tax monies for the school year of 2022-2023 for the amount of $32,735,008 and distributed as seen in the agenda.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Kim and Mr. Cass. Any questions, comments?
So I would just also call out number 9. We have a $2,500 donation from Acme gift cards from Acme Markets and the Gen Youth program for Denville families. Say thank you to them as well.
Thank you for pointing that out. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Capello,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
No on the milk fund. Yes on everything else.
Mr. Kim,
Yes.
Dr. Aruna Jatasan,
Yes.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes. Under operations, Mr. Cass, would you mind moving us through?
Certainly. Under operations, the first item I'm going to ask the board to approve is to approve the publishers of an advertisement for bid solicitations for the sale of 2 school buses here. We have bus number 180, a 2007 Bluebird 54-passenger bus, and also bus number 181, also a 2007 Bluebird 54 passenger bus. Next, we have,
Um, Do I have a second?
No, we've got
I'm
more
sorry.
items. He's just going through the items.
was moving on to the three other items under transportation. We have items 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. I'm asking that the board approve parent transportation contracts for 3 students that they're special ed, and the parents are going to take them to the school, and we're going to be reimbursing them. Under buildings and grounds, I'm going to ask the board to approve the attached use of facility request from Lerner Limited LLC at no cost to them. As I mentioned at the other meeting, at the work session, that we have a good shared services agreement with them. They've let us use buses when we needed them. Also asking the board to approve the attached proposal from EI Associates Professional Engineering Services to complete the following school project. The amounts listed below. We have the Valley View Middle School athletic field, the new ADA toilet room facility, $20,000. And in the packet there, we had a very detailed letter from the architect. Also to approve publishing and advertising for bid solicitations for the Valley View Middle School HVAC project. Item 2.4, that the board approve publishing and advertising for bid solicitations for the Lakeview Elementary School electrical service upgrade project. 2.5, I'm asking the board to approve the initial submission to the Department of Education for the Valley View Middle School ADA toilet room facility project. And we have, whereas the board has selected EI Associates, architects, and engineers to implement the above mentioned projects. The district is not seeking debt service aid, therefore the projects are considered other capital projects. Whereas the projects required to be submitted to the State Department of Education, the Denville BOE authorized EI Associates to amend and submit amendments to the district's long-range facilities plan. Therefore, be resolved that the board authorize EI Associates as appropriate representatives of the board to submit any required educational plans and schematic plans for the projects. Be it further resolved that the board representatives are authorized and direct to submit the schematic plans and any other required information to the planning board and the Department of Environmental Protection for review and comment on the aforementioned projects.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Cass and Mr. Kim. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Capello,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Kim,
Yes.
Dr. Aruna Jatasan,
Yes.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes. Okay, we're going to move on to good of the cause committee reports, correspondence, discussion items. On here, we've got a few things. Board meeting highlights. Dr. Forte, did you have any recommendations?
I have the donations. I have the YMCA lease and the upcoming presentations on June 13th.
Anybody else have anything to add?
I'll just mention real quick about the special ed fair. Grace sent me an email on that, and I'll be going to that along with our new Challenger Director Liaison, Amy Van Loo. And I know Tom Butler used to go to these in the past, so this will be my first one to attend. So I am looking forward to it, and we'll have some literature handouts because I'd really like to see if we could bump up the attendance and the participation with the Challenger division. So this will be good to meet the parents in person, give them some handouts, and probably give them some, like a trade show, some Hub Soccer magnets.
Perfect. Thank you, thank you, Mr. Cass. Dr. Forte, did you want to add in the special education?
Yeah, I added it. It's in there
Okay.
already, but I'll add it in the highlights as well.
Good, thank you. All right, so I think we're good on highlights. The other bullet point was the convention in October. We can talk about that when we get a little closer. We're good. Anybody have anything else for the good of the cause? Going once, going twice. Good. Okay. We're going to move on to our second open public comment section. Seeing no one in person here, I'm going to spare myself from, or spare you from hearing me read the 2 paragraphs. Dr. Forte, can you just verify there? Oh, let me open the second open public comment section at 8:10 p.m.
We do have an email.
Yeah, if you could read it, Dr. Forte, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, this is from Donna Szynski, 64 Pier Place. I hope everyone's well. I wish I could have made it tonight to meet the 2 moms that spoke. Thank you. Garwood is not adopting this curriculum at all. I'm hoping Denville does the same. We really need to catch up our kids. There was a ton of learning loss. The language reads, whereas should we allow the proposed state curriculum to move forward, the impact it would have in the classrooms would allow the school district to demonstrate topics inclusive of sexual activity, such as oral sex, anal sex, masturbation, and gender, to be discussed with children at various grade levels to comply with the curriculum standards. Whereas the standards set forth are extreme and age inappropriate and was adopted by the State Board of Education. Therefore, be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Borough of Garwood shall not adopt the curriculum set forth by the New Jersey learning standards covered under the Comprehensive Health and Physical Education 2020 NJSLS-CHPE.
Thank you, Dr. Forte, and thank you for the comment, Mrs. Szynski. That was the only email, Dr. Forte, is that correct?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Yeah, I would just, I mean, the only comment I would make in response to that is just that, you know, we will be presenting the information, and until that time, I would say, I personally am going to withhold additional comment until we hear additional information from the district administration and kind of the exact curriculum that would be implemented in Denville. Did you want to add anything else, Dr. Forte?
No, you basically said exactly what I was going to say. So we pretty much answered that from before. We're looking at it, their guidelines. We will find out what we think is the best. And not only that, there's checks and balances. The 7 of you have to vote on these. It's not just up to one person to decide what's the right thing for our community. So after discussion and comment, it'll be time for the 7 members of the board to vote, and then it'll become part of our curriculum, whatever those changes might be.
Yeah, and the only other thing I would kind of add in is for anybody that is from the public that is reading the Comprehensive Health and Physical Education document published by the State Board of Education in 2020, June of 2020, I would just remind everybody that the starting on page, just scrolling down to find the exact page here. Well, if you start from the top, it lists some basic kind of standards that are met, and then as you dig deeper, it does provide some additional standards. I would say the standards are the part that I would focus on, because that's the requirement from this bill. It is not required. Some of the details that we've heard from the public and the wording and the phrases, those are not required. What is required is meeting the standards. So there are things like core idea and then performance expectations. So the core idea is really, I believe, in Dr. Forte, I know you may not have the document in front of you, but it's really the standards and the core ideas that are kind of the requirements, as opposed to the performance expectations, or some of the examples they give are additional information. So there's a requirement to be met, and then there's how you meet that requirement. And I think how you meet that requirement is really where the rubber meets the road, as far as what would be implemented or changed, if anything. As Mr. Kim just mentioned, it's if anything is changed within the current curriculum. So, but it's really I would focus on the standards that are required to be met.
I think you hit the nail on the head. Perfect.
Any other comments in the email box, Dr. Forte? I don't see any.
I do not have any comments.
Okay. No comments in the email box, no one else in person. So I'm going to close our second open public comment section at 8:15 p.m. We do have the need for an executive session. However, there will be no action taken after the executive session. So, Mr. Kim, would you mind moving us into executive session?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I motion that we convene in executive session in accordance with the Section 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act. The purpose of this closed session will be to discuss personnel issues
Personnel, student matters, and legal issues.
and legal and student issues as well. Minutes of this session will be made available to the public when the need for confidentiality no longer exists.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Mr. Capello, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any nays?
None. Any abstentions? None. We are in executive session at 8:15 p.m.